So like the interesting thing about this Ace Bailey situation, the wing from Rutgers, the Rutgers wasn't very good. They had Dylan Harper, who went two to the Spurs. Ace Bailey ends up getting drafted fifth to the Utah Jazz. And, this kid's feeling himself a little bit too much. He's refusing to work out for the Sixers. He's refusing to work out for other teams. And it's just like his draft process is unusual. So he declined all the workouts and then ended up going with all the top five teams and then ended up falling or slipping, whatever verbiage you want to use, to the Utah Jazz in a top five pick anyway. And then basically said he was surprised that they even wanted him. But Utah was one of the teams that actually requested the workout. So the draft process for him, and then obviously you go into like the facial reactions, and he's not even reporting. He hasn't even reported to Utah. He didn't fly in with their other draft pick. The guy that they've already done. So, there's two sides to this for me. There is that, hey man, he's just looking out for his future. He's just looking out for this. That seems to be a lot of the sentiment in this new age of sports. And, somebody could say Ace Bailey told certain teams not to draft him and the Utah Jazz did it anyway. And, that's their fault that he ghosted all their draft night plans and that he still hasn't reported. And I'm sure Utah's betting that he'll show up at some point, reportedly on Monday. But this has all of the makings of a rookie standoff. And listen, I get it, man. Like, you're looking out for your best interest, but this isn't the NFL. The NBA couldn't care less about these rookies. They will ruin your career before it even starts. And he needs to really think about suiting up, going to ball out, and just demanding a trade like a normal player. The NBA will turn you into a full-time G Leaguer if you're not careful. That player who does the things he's doing ends up in Japan. And he's carrying himself like he was Cooper Flagg or somebody. And I'm of the belief, like, I'm a Sixers fan. The moment the Sixers didn't get the number one pick, I was all about trading that third pick because, in my opinion, nobody in this draft is really worth the hype other than Cooper Flagg. And you could probably package that trade somewhere else. And VJ, I like his attitude. I like all this stuff. And he can say and do all the right things. He can show up and put his jersey on and it looks good for social media. But at the end of the day, all these players are project players. And, Ace Bailey is no exception. Again, Rutgers was terrible. And you can blame the recruiting class. You didn't make the tournament. You're a top five pick. You didn't make the NCAA tournament. There's 64 damn teams in the thing. So what you don't want to do is piss off all of the owners because they will make an example out of you. Walter Clayton Jr. is the Utah second round pick, who's already flown into Utah, is already doing all the right things. And Ace Bailey is nowhere to be found. His agent had declined to comment on his future in Utah. But hey, then you get the guy on social media, who basically went through the same career path and ended up over in overseas playing. But when you do stuff like this, you're putting a huge target on your back and you have to perform. If he ends up on the court for Utah, which I'm pretty sure he will, but if you don't come out and you don't save that franchise, you are not a contributing member to that franchise, all of this is going to be magnified 1,000%. And again, will be people that say, it's funny because a lot of people didn't have problems with Bronny. And last year, Bronny's people said, hey, if he got picked by anybody of the Lakers, he's going overseas. Danny Ferry got drafted by the Clippers and didn't want to play for them. He went overseas. Eventually, he ended up in Cleveland. Steve Francis got drafted by the Grizzlies and refused to go and eventually got traded to the Rockets, and Kobe and the Charlotte thing and everybody. No, but those are different circumstances. And listen, Ace might just be one of those players that has to go overseas. The Jazz will keep his rights. It seems, and he could sit out the year, don't play for anybody, and come back in the draft next year. But then what does that fix for him? I'm glad Philly didn't take him. After the Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz and the headaches we've had to deal with and continue to deal with these draft picks, I'm glad they went with a safe choice. But, doing certain things at Rutgers and being inconsistent at Rutgers and being a voice at Rutgers is going to be a huge difference in power. He's going to see what real power. You're in the real world now. Like, you're going to see what real power feels like. And for me personally, even though I do see it on the other side of the coin, you're not Shedeur Sanders, dog. Like, there's consequences, right? There's no rewards for behavior like this. There's only repercussions. Like, yeah, and we've seen that with Shedeur Sanders. Like, we saw with a father who played in the league, like Deion Sanders, one of the greatest players we've ever seen, and the behaviors that he exhibited in terms of trying to dictate where he wants to go. There's rarely a reward for behavior like this. We picked out a few examples, but generally it doesn't work out for people like this. And he's young. He has no experience in this sort of thing. And this stresses the importance of having a good support system. And for me, that only goes so far, because a lot of people, they're loading up. They're going to blame this dude, this his agent or his friend or his uncle or whoever this guy is to him. And honestly, listen, man, you're a college kid. You're like, you have a brain. Does any of this feel smart to you? Like, toughen up. And you're going to go make millions and play in the NBA. And I usually side with the players over organization, but like, seriously, like, fuck this. This is how the draft works. He's very dangerously close to Utah icing him, because that's where they have the power in the situation. And he's going to be in danger of being blackballed from the entire league. And that's going to be a terrible look. And not only is this whole situation a terrible look, it's kind of an embarrassment for Utah, and especially for him. And if I'm in the Utah locker room, it's fuck Ace Bailey, just on principle, until he comes in and redeems himself. And he's going to learn real hard and real fast that nobody's bigger than the program. Nobody's bigger than the Shield. Nobody's bigger than the league. Go get your game up. For a guy who didn't even make the tournament to be acting like this is terrible. And so what he needs to do is just fire his representation and get somebody with some actual experience in this sort of thing. And he should be in Utah today. Like, what are you talking about? You're going to be there Monday. The second round pick got there. You're supposed to be the franchise guy. He's being led astray, but there's also a level of personal accountability that I feel when it comes to these certain things. And again, people will argue he's just looking out for his best interest and he wants to go to the best situation. And what's wrong with that? Well, if he was so concerned about a team's history of not developing players or raising his profile, then why does he want to go to Washington? Why was Washington one of those teams? They have zero track record with any of the things that he's putting out there that he wants from a team. Washington's one of the worst franchises you can go to. And to me, it's a slap in the face of every other player that's grinded for this situation. And if you think you're going to sway the owners who dry their tears with $100 bills, you're sadly mistaken, kid. And you're not gonna win this fight. So listen, Ace Bailey, I hope this weekend you sit down and really think about your future and not get caught up in a lot of these external factors that don't really contribute to your on-court success. Because at this juncture of your very early NBA career, that's what you need to be focused on, what happens on the court. You're trying to set up all this stuff off the court and trying to build your brand off the court. And that's the problem with a lot of these young people. You're so worried about building your brand individually when you're supposed to be part of a team. You start to lose sight of the team. You start to lose sight of the goal, and you're going to end up floundering. Your development and your team contribution is crucial to your brand success. And the importance of being drafted to a stable organization with a good system and strong developmental support, which the Utah Jazz have, and that's what they've been building to. Like, the Warriors are the perfect example of that. The Jazz are on that trajectory that the Warriors were when they drafted Steph Curry and they started that whole thing. And even that started off rocky because a lot of people were questioning Steph Curry's ankles. That's why He didn't get his first big contract extension, which allowed them to have the money to get Kevin Durant. So things happen all the time by design. Uh, you should be embracing all aspects of the journey, including being supported, whether that's you're the best player on the team or whether you're the 12th man by the fans. All that experience builds character and it builds appreciation. And you are spitting in the face of all that. So, it's not just good enough to be good in the NBA anymore. Like there's a lot of things that go into what it is. And listen, you have talent. Nobody's denying that. But facts are facts. You were wildly inconsistent. Your shot selection wasn't, the shot selection was good, but you were inconsistent. And you do have what it takes to be called top 5 talent, but attitude ruins it completely. So my advice to you in closing is put your head down, go to work, leave all the past decisions behind you. I think if you show up with Utah, and at the end of the day, if you show up and you ball out, this will not matter as much. But if you show up and this continues to be a thing, and you continue to make these bad decisions, like it's just going to magnify, and you're going to ruin your career before it starts. So to help you in the long run, kind of just put your head down and go to work is the best thing that anybody should say to you, and what you should do.